2023 is winding down, and it's been an odd year for movies. An unusually large number of big budget franchise sequels have absolutely flopped. But not everything has flopped. A bunch of movies thrived this year and way overperformed. So today I'm going to rank the 10 highest grossing movies of the year. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of the 10 highest grossing movies of the year. My list is not the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. Now, as we go into this is based off which movies made the most money in the year 2023, not necessarily that they were released in the year 2023. So there's one interesting entry in this list. One final thing before we get started. Right now, there is a sale in my merch store, 35% off everything, so you can get your own I Talk Movies Too Much t-shirt, sticker, a bunch of other stuff. So if you just want an awesome shirt, if you're looking for a Christmas idea for someone that loves to talk about movies too much, they make great stocking stuffers. If you're headed to your high school prom, if you're getting married in the near future and you want some serious drip, there's nothing better than an I Talk Movies Too Much t-shirt. Likewise, they work great as rags in your garage. You can shove one into a glass bottle, make a Molotov cocktail bomb. They are great for any occasion, for any purpose. And right now they are on sale for 35% off. The link is down below in the description, and let's get started. Coming in last place, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantum Mania. Now, this was the much anticipated kickoff to phase 5 of the MCU. This is the movie where we're going to see a true variant of Kang and not just He Who Remains. And it really didn't live up to the expectations.
He will burn the world to find you. Who? The Conqueror.
It turned out to be very anticlimactic in the way that it played out. Even though it had a big, gigantic battle at the end of the movie, it still felt so small scale and like there were no ramifications. There were no consequences for this gigantic story set in the quantum realm where we're battling for freedom. It just felt so familiar, like we've seen this many times before. Now, sure, Paul Rudd and the cast, they're still pleasant to watch on screen. There's some fun antics here and there. Some of the jerks worked for me, but this is very far from a marvelous addition to the MCU or a fantastic way to kick off a new phase of the MCU or to introduce us to the big bad of our current era of MCU films. And so one that really needed to be important to the larger MCU scene, and it just wasn't. Number 9, Barbie, the highest grossing movie of the year, both domestically as well as globally. It's not terribly surprising that a movie about the icon Barbie with a whole bunch of stars in it would be a hit film. It was surprising how successful the movie was, how much it connected with people, with communities, with enormous groups of women going in cosplay to go see it, and how much it just latched onto popular culture on a global scale. Now, when it first came out, I went mixed negative on it, and I loved a bunch of things about it. I thought a bunch of scenes were really funny, but there were other elements that just didn't really work for me, and it definitely got preachy in the last third of it, where you literally have a character monologuing at the camera as a way to just put the creator's ideas out in the world. With time, I think the movie's aged well in my mind. And so now I would probably go mixed positive on the film. I haven't rewatched it yet, and perhaps if I rewatched it, I'd go even more positive with it, with a better perspective on what the movie is trying to do.
No, I won't let you do just one appendectomy.
But I'm a man.
But not a doctor.
Can I talk to a doctor?
You are talking to a doctor.
But when it comes to the performances, a lot of the humor in it, production design, it does a lot of things really, really well. It's quotable. It's memorable. It pops in your mind. I just wish that it had found a better way to communicate some of its ideas, or just focus in on fewer ideas than trying to cram so much in there that you literally have to have characters monologuing at one another to get it all in. And as I've mentioned all along, as someone with 2 daughters under the age of 10, I found it odd that the movie was made for grown-ups and not for my little girls. Next up, The Little Mermaid. Now, this is a movie that has had numerous articles, videos made about how poorly it did, but it did poorly compared to what Lion King, Aladdin, and Beauty and the Beast did, because those movies were billion-dollar films, and especially Lion King made almost $2 billion, which is crazy, and because they spent way too much money on it, and it doesn't look like it cost as much as it cost, and I just don't know you need to make this movie for that much. But it made $300 million here in the United States, which is a really good number for a movie like this if you don't spend way too much on it and have unrealistic expectations, which of course they did do. As for the movie itself, I thought it was a fun, charming adaptation of The Little Mermaid. Should have tightened up the first bit. The underwater stuff doesn't look very good, but as soon as you kind of get to the shore and the romance kicked in, this movie worked for me. I don't think I've seen the lead actress in anything else, but I think she was able to pull off the naive curiosity and charm of Ariel. So for me, it's not great or anything like that, but I thought it was a good time at the movies, and I enjoyed taking my little girls to go see it on the big screen. Number 7, Sound of Freedom, the movie that absolutely no one predicted would be in the top 10 highest grossing movies of the year, even when the movie first came out. It is astounding, the movies that Sound of Freedom outperformed. When you look at how many DC films, Mission Impossible, Transformers, massive franchises, even Elemental, a Pixar film, massive franchises, gigantic budgets, and Sound of Freedom grossed more money than those films here in the United States. Now, there's a bit of controversy surrounding that because they did a pay it forward program where people could buy tickets for other people, and therefore there's all sorts of anecdotal evidence of people like, look, the theater's empty, but it's sold out. Then other anecdotal evidence of my entire church went to go see the movie together, packed theater. What really happened, I don't know, but it is the 10th highest grossing film of the year here in the United States, which is pretty wild that that's a thing that happened. But what did I think about the movie itself? Well, it worked well enough for me. I got sucked into the narrative, and it's particularly profound because it's based on real life events. And, there's all sorts of speculation. Did the lead guy exaggerate some of his claims? Perhaps, but is trafficking a real thing? Yes, it is. Are some of the events in this film so well documented they literally show the real life events in the credits of this film? Yeah, they are. And so there is some truth to it. It just adds a weight to what you're watching when you know this is a reality. And I appreciated that it doesn't play it as an action movie. It's not a power fantasy. It's not taken but based off real life events. It doesn't really do that. It's very much on trying to stop evil, and what does that really look like in our world. 6, the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, this is one that at the beginning of the year, some of us started to predict that this could be the highest grossing film of the year because it has that cross-generational appeal to it, where I grew up with a Nintendo Entertainment System. The first video game I remember anticipating it coming out was Super Mario Brothers 3. And Mario has remained a part of popular culture ever since. And so now I'm in my 40s. I've got kids and they play Super Mario games. Mario Kart is the one that we play in our household. But for generations, people have loved Mario. And the trailers made it look like a faithful adaptation. At least on the superficial experience, it looks, sounds like it's paying tribute to this long-running video game franchise.
We're the Mario Brothers, and plumbing's a game.
With the Mario Brothers and plumbing's a game.
And that's what it did. And so even as soon as the movie came out and I had seen it, I had all sorts of friends of mine coming up to me like, hey, we want to take our kids to see this movie as like the first movie he ever sees in the theater. Do you think that this is a good first movie to take a kid to? And it was. It's something you can take your whole family to and have fun with it. And if you're a little bit older, it just kind of takes you back to your childhood. And if you're younger, it's perfectly designed for you. It's age appropriate for everyone. And I wish that it had been maybe a little bit meatier on the plot side of things. It is pretty straightforward. It's about the Super Mario Brothers, but we split the brothers up. There's things on the story level that I would have changed or gone more in depth on. But they did the most important thing. They delivered a faithful Super Mario experience that takes you into that world, and it feels like they love the world of Mario and they wanted to bring it to life, and they did. In fifth place, Avatar: The Way of Water. And this is the unusual one on this list because, of course, it came out in 2022, but it only made $400 million of its $684 million domestic in the year 2022. And so it made an additional $283 million in 2023, which is kind of funny because it cracked the top 10 on top of already making $400 million. Like, that money that it made in the previous year, that's enough to qualify to be the number 2 highest grossing movie of the year for this year had it come out this year. And it qualified still on top of that with the money that it actually did make in 2023. James Cameron makes movies that get people to buy tickets and show up. And I think that's what Cameron's gift has been with these Avatar films. Of course, on a story level, they've been criticized for being fairly simplistic. They're template movies. But they're movies worth seeing on the big screen. They're true spectacles in the theater where we haven't seen worlds created on this level. And like when they start doing the underwater stuff in it, it's like a nature documentary, except we're on an alien planet and it's a plot in the film. But you're watching it. It's just incredible images brought to life and sucks you into this world like we're visiting there. And that is what he does well. Makes movies worth seeing on the big screen. Thus, they make insane amount of money selling tickets. But have I thought about rewatching it at home in the last year? No, I have not. Did I think it was awesome seeing it in the theater? Yes, I did. Fourth, John Wick Chapter 4. And this franchise's trajectory has literally only been going up on every single metric. Domestic gross, international gross, Rotten Tomatoes scores, audience scores. Every single entry in this franchise has outdone the previous entry. And the first movie, when it came out, surprised everyone in how good it was and how well it did. So this is like this franchise that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and better and better and better, thus leading to the fourth film, which is this John Wick magnum opus, just pulling us into this world and showing us stunt work and action like we have never seen before, certainly not on this scale, where it is the best of stunt work combined with VFX to just have incredible, vibrant, visceral, exciting, stylized action. And so many things in this movie, you're watching it being like, how did they do that? How did they pull that off? And it's because they're using all of the tricks. They are doing something on set in a real environment, but they're also using the best of modern technology to be able to enhance it, add an extra element. that just takes everything to this whole other level. These are people at the top of their game. I mean, this is just an incredible piece of action cinema. Real quick before I give you my top 3, remember to join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of the highest grossing movies domestic of 2023. I've reviewed each of these movies. I've covered them in depth. If you would like to hear my expanded thoughts on any of them, there's something around here where you can do that. Also, remember, these incredible shirts are on sale. The link is down below in the description. If you're looking for a last minute Christmas idea for grandma, she would love to have one of these shirts. In third place, Oppenheimer. Now, the idea of Nolan releasing a big hit film, not terribly surprising. He's kind of been doing that for a long time. He is a brand. He's a franchise in and of himself with a built-in audience because he consistently puts out movies worth watching. But no one was expecting a 3-hour-long biopic about scientists talking and the effects of war and Senate hearings. Nobody thought that movie was going to make that close to $1 billion. And if I were to put money on it, I would bet that eventually this movie will cross $1 billion, that they'll re-release it come Oscar season. They'll do one final push. I think it'll make $1 billion at the end of the day budget. But when it comes to the movie itself, I mean, Nolan is the master. Like, he's the top working director right now. I would say that. I think I do believe that he knows how to deliver in different genres and make movies that are accessible. And so you get a great character study. You have an interesting dive into the obsession of these scientists. And one of the things not enough people talk about with this movie, it's probably Nolan's funniest film. It kind of needed to be because it's so heavy. And so it has kind of this steady stream of just kind of like little lines, a lot of them from Matt Damon, that just break the tension enough, add just enough levity into some of these moments that otherwise would be very heavy. And you put it all together and you get a film that's thought-provoking. It's a movie that made me fear the world when I left the theater. Like, if you can make a movie that makes me fear the world, you've done something very powerful and profound. Our runner-up, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and a movie whose backstory is just as interesting as the film itself. Of course, James Gunn wrote the script for this movie 5 years ago, was fired from Disney over old tweets. The way it works out, turns out this is the one bona fide hit that Disney put out this year. And for many of us MCU fans that have been frustrated recently, this felt like the good old days. A lot of that is probably because it was written during the good old days, prior to the kind of current era of leadership, the parliament that kind of is tinkering with everything. This was written before all of that. And according to Gunn, very little changed from his script 5 years ago to the movie that we saw in theaters, and that rings true. As for the movie itself, I think he did it. He pulled off being able to tell a story that was massive in size, but also deeply personal. It's very funny, but it's also incredibly gut-wrenching, tragic, and sad. It comes to a conclusion where you feel a sense of loss, but also victory at the same time. He didn't need to kill off any of our Guardians, but we still felt like it was an earned finale that had stakes and consequences to it. And so he did it. He pulled it off. James Gunn found a way to close out this trilogy of films about characters that I love in a way that felt right. But coming in at number 1, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. In a year filled with big franchise sequels, filled with movies with budgets over $200 million, this is the movie that stood out as a film that really made me go, wow, I've never seen that before. And it did that on kind of every single level. As a Spider-Man story, it dives deeper into Spider-Man lore and canon events than any other Spider-Man movie has ever done. But it's also a story about an individual character on his journey. And then just as an animated film, what they were able to do, incorporating so many different styles, different techniques and apply them to each of our different variations and variants. They used animation to communicate emotion. I mean, the one that will always probably stand out in my mind is the scene between Gwen and her father, where the walls behind her start dripping, and it communicates that emotion in a way I have never seen emotion communicated in a movie before, and in a way that you couldn't do in live action. If you do that in live action, all of a sudden we're in a trippy surrealist film. But in animation, you can get away with it, and everyone immediately knows what's going on. And it just, there's all these little cool things that it does that just wowed me. As for right now, Across the Spider-Verse is the movie that's just made me go, man, movies are awesome, and we're still discovering what we can do with them. So it comes in at number 1. Be sure to head to the link down below in the description to pick up your own I Talk Movies Too Much gear. You can get some awesome drip with one of these Bad Man pajamas. They're also great as cloth diapers for newborn babies. They can do it all. The link is down below in the description. And keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.